It's the West Tigers podcast, episode number 79, in the middle of the week. Eddie Otto, how are you? And wasn't it good to catch up with Adam Hardigan from the West Tigers, just to get that little bit of a different perspective on things?
Good, thanks, Joel. Yeah, it was a really good catch-up. I thought he was as open and honest as he could be. Obviously, there were a couple of questions there that he was fairly measured with. But, yeah, to get someone right at the top of the club there who's overseeing things like recruitment, retention, salary cap, future planning, roster moves and all that, I thought we asked some fair questions. Hopefully the fans thought that we tried to ask some of the hard questions and he did his best to answer them.
Well, and to Adam's credit, we didn't chase up Adam. He heard what we were doing on the podcast and he made contact with us. That he was, really liking what we were doing and wanted to be part of it. So, congratulations to him there for being proactive. A lot of the time, people who are in different situations and different positions are sometimes accused of not being proactive enough, but he was really proactive. And I think from the discussions that we've had with him off air, he's really keen on driving as much fan engagement and bringing people in and being part of the club as possible.
Yeah, I mean, not only does he seem like a pretty sort of shrewd operator, but he seems like a pretty genuine sort of bloke as well. That's the impression I got talking to him the time we had a catch up before off air and then on air. So I think we're in good hands there with him and Michael Maguire. And it'd be nice if he could come on, every few weeks or once a month and give us little updates on how things are going. And I'm sure he was disappointed like the rest of us not to win on Saturday night, but you could sort of see little positives, Joel, in terms of the turnover of the roster and the recruitment sort of strategy they're going for, that things might be on the upturn.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we're getting to a position where the changes, as I said when we had Adam on the line, the changes that I see the club making we're getting to the point where it's really just tweaks. It's not a complete rebuild. I thought when Michael Maguire came in, to his credit, I thought, well, here we go. We've probably got a spoon coming. It's going to be a complete rebuild. But he's done really well to sort of keep the ship going. He's steadied the ship after the Ivan Cleary debacle, and he's getting some really good performances out of some players who I think we, even as their biggest fans, thought wasn't possible. So I think things are coming together nicely. Yeah.
I think we've got to preach patience. I know people will want to whack me over the head for that, given we haven't made finals in 9 years. But like you said, I mean, he came into a situation which for mine is as bad as the Canterbury situation with 4 or 5 players on way too much money who are some of them at the wrong end of their career. Still, many of those guys not contributing in any way, shape or form or fringe, maybe slightly above fringe players, but not superstars. And Madge has managed to sort of, he hasn't been able to offload some of them, as we know. And he's managed to keep performances, not only respectable, but, like you said, the main thing, improving some of those young guys.
Yeah.
And we just need to add maybe another cherry or two on top.
Yeah, just a little bit of class. And that was the thing that really stood out to me in that game against Penrith. We pretty much managed to meet, really meet their challenge when it comes to muscle. If you remember when we played them 2018 at Penrith, it was a Friday night game. We just got smashed off the field. Like, they are such a big physical team. I thought we really matched them quite well. They just had a little bit of class and a bit more speed than us, which I think mattered, as well as a few refereeing decisions and a few other things that didn't quite go our way. But that was the underlying feeling that I got. We could match it in most ways, just missing a bit of speed and a bit of class.
I think you summed it up 100%. We've spoken about it before. I really enjoyed the game, Joel. It was a bit of a throwback game. It was a bit of a game like an old 90s game where it was a rivalry and it was niggly and it was on from the start and both teams did not back down. As a neutral, I thought they would have loved the game. Again, I don't want to blame referees because good teams overcome refereeing decisions, but we certainly didn't get any rub of the green there. But there were instances in there where we could have been smarter. But the thing you said, the one word, and it's the one thing we still haven't managed to address, and I'm not blaming Adam Hardigan or anyone for this, it's speed. There was 2 identical situations. One where Adam Dewey picked up a ball in goal, did a brilliant bit of work to get free, but was run down after probably a 10 or 15 metre head start. And there was the other situation where Coruscant poked his nose through and Dylan Edwards just streaked away. That was pace. I mean, that's that's a try for one team and no try for the other, where it's the same breakaway situation. And if we could just find someone, a fullback or a winger, with that pace that can finish off a break, then we might win games like that, because there was no shortage of effort in there. You'd have to be proud of the team if you're out there on Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you, just right at the beginning of the game, did you think that Luke Garner had knocked that ball on in that first initial play of the game? I didn't see a knock on.
Well, it was weird because I was sitting with a couple of guys at West Leagues Club watching it, and they showed about 8 replays, and they never rolled the replay to the point where the knock-on was, I assume. Yeah. But Luke Garner never argued it. So I figure that was just a mistake, maybe because the Fox guys are not at the game or something, that they didn't show it. But on the replays shown, there was no knock-on. It may have happened after it cut out, but it wasn't that one. But there were a couple in the second half, Joel, that really, really sort of 50-50, or calls that should have gone our way that didn't. I know it was a 10-5 penalty count to Penrith. We did try and sort of probably slow them down, and some of those penalties were probably earned with some of the niggle. But again, I think still some of these referees, Joel, even though it's a 6 again, they still want to have this imprint on the game that they don't need to. A game that's, ebbing and flowing and there's good contests with fatigue and physicality, and just don't want refs sort of deciding it. And I'm just frustrated by that.
Yeah, that second half, and we've had that referee before. He seems to, maybe when we had him, I think it was in the Cronulla game, where we got the ascendancy and we had the momentum, and a few decisions went our way. And you sometimes wonder, without taking your West Tigers jacket off, but taking your West Tigers glasses off, some of the younger, more experienced, or maybe not quite as well-rounded referees do tend to sometimes look like they favour teams that might be sort of higher on the ladder, or teams that in that moment just seem to have the ascendancy. It just seems, and that's across all the games that I watch. If you're watching Canterbury play the Roosters, sometimes they seem to be tougher on Canterbury than on the Roosters.
Yeah, I don't know if that could be a subconscious thing. I've reffed games at school level and junior football, and you sort of, sometimes the team that loses think you've favoured the better side, but sometimes because they're just that little bit faster or that little bit quicker playing the ball. Although stats didn't really say that, Joel. I saw we had 11 offloads to 2. Our play the ball speed was quicker than Penrith's. Like you said, we more than matched them in the forwards. And to be fair, I don't want to give Penrith a rap, but they were really good. Like, that wasn't an average game for them. They completed 43 out of 48 sets.
Yeah.
They completed at 90%. They were really up for the game like we were. So we got Penrith there at near their best. And like you said, a little bit of speed. Or the other thing is a little bit of composure, Joel. Like, when we made that break, when Adam Dewey went through, I would have loved to see the next play, Luke Brooks get his hands on the ball.
Yeah.
He didn't. It had to go quickly to the right, and there would have been a try on because there's a big overlap, but we sort of botched it. And there was one early in the first half. I think when Penrith were up 6-0, Josh Reynolds sort of went through a big gap, didn't quite put his foot down, and then floated a pass. And if we had sort of gone short passes, it would have been an easy try. So there were just moments of composure, and then you see Penrith set up for a field goal, and you just knew they were going to kick it. So I think, that's those little differences at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the difference between a team that is a top 4 team and a team that's potentially a bottom 4 team, but likely, probably most pundits would have us 9th or 10th or something like that. So that was as close to semi-final football as we're probably going to get, in terms of regular season matches. But as I put on Facebook, and it really stands out to me, you've got a team that is a probable top 4 team, potentially a team that will finish first. They have to play out their best to beat us in that second half. And I think that says an awful lot, especially when you take into consideration that we lost 2 players as well. It was always fatigue was going to be an issue. They stayed a bit healthier. And that might have been the difference too.
Good point, Joel. I forgot about that, the 2 players with head knocks during the game. That definitely knocks you around. And that's another frustration, Joel, is there's got to be some sort of rule for, foul play and having an 18th man, because it's no advantage to us if a player, even though they didn't, but, Coruscant with that sort of swinging arm, and the other one looked like a sort of flying headbutt to me on Sam McIntyre. I don't think he was charged, but they were both penalised, and our guys are both knocked out of the game. So that's a clear disadvantage, like you said. But look, again, it's been a month, Joel, of we're getting those sort of closer to. I think the last 2 weeks have been 80-minute performances, and that's what Madge has been preaching. So we can't be too critical. I guess it's just frustrating when you put in that much effort. You know, if you had the class roster, you'd probably get the result. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah. But I think it's a good point that we're starting, that we can build on. I think that's the most important thing. I think that's, and I don't know if we're going to be able to maintain that level every week. I think that's probably a bit unrealistic, obviously. But I think it's starting to come together. And I think if you can add a few classy players in there, I think that there should be better times ahead. I've got to give a rap to Matt Eisenhuth. Obviously, he was involved in the one missed tackle. With, Michael Chee Kam was in there as well. But I thought Eisenhuth played a fantastic game, and better than I've ever seen him play before. I think really surprised me.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was rumours at the start of the year he was going to be off to the Warriors or Cronulla, and it never eventuated. So maybe that was a bit of a kick up the backside. I've always thought he's done a steady job, but I think, Joel, the last 2 weeks, you'd agree, he's sort of elevated his game where he's been a bit more, handy with the football. He made sort of 120 metres again. He scored a try, and he did, even though he did miss that tackle, I thought it was more maybe Michael Chee Kam's fault, and he did make 62 tackles. So I think he might have played the 80 minutes. So definitely a wrap for Matt Eisenhuth. I thought he was probably close to our best, along with I think David Nofaluma's playing sensational football, Joel. I actually think, he might be an outside chance to play Origin this year. I saw the stats of him lined up against Blake Ferguson, and it was 8 tries for Nofa to 0 for Ferguson, more line breaks, more offloads, more metres per game. So if he can fix, like he has the last couple of weeks, no errors and no defensive deficiencies, there's no reason why he can't.
Well, of course, it comes back to one of my favourite sayings in rugby league. Certain players are built for Origin, and no doubt Blake Ferguson will be built for Origin when it comes time to name the teams, despite the form.
Probably, but I mean, I just think it was nice to see. It was, I don't know who wrote the article. It was in the Herald, and there was a few. I don't think they were asking Nofa about that, but I just think he's a guy who's benefited from having a hard-nosed coach for the last 18 months. You can see the clear improvement in his game. You can see the confidence in his game. Like he really wants the ball. He's demonstrative on the field, and he's a lot fitter than he was 2 years ago. He's really strong at the moment, and it's good to see.
Yeah, it is good to see. And I've got to give Adam Dewey another rap as well. As I said, last podcast, or last regular podcast, the bombs go up and the kicks go up, and I'm 100% sure he's going to catch it, which is, that's something we haven't had for a while. So I think it's just great. So congratulations to him. If it was only a bit faster, but I can see him moving into the number 6 jersey in coming years, I think. We have to talk about a couple of controversial issues towards the end of the match. Do you think that West Tigers, you could kind of see that Joey Leilua was going off his nut 15 minutes before the coat hanger? Do you think that maybe there might have had to have been an intervention to get him to cool down? Because you could tell that something stupid was coming.
Well, yeah, I was sitting with a couple of blokes, but I was on a group text with a couple of Tigers mates, and one of them said to me, when Lucci got knocked out, he said, mark my words, Joey Leilua will either win or lose us this game in the next 10 minutes. Yeah. And I thought, he's more likely to lose us the game, because you could tell he was rattled, he was niggly, and look, I'm a fan of the signing. I thought there's been some harsh words said about it in the last few days. It's been a bit over the top.
What Warren Smith said was silly. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to tweet Warren Smith, because I know he's a Tigers fan and he's a very level-headed sort of guy, and I've met him a couple of times at the League Club. But his thing with Joey Leilua, it seems personal, because he tore him to shreds after the Newcastle game, and then he said that he's the worst signing of the NRL era, and the Tigers should be punished by having to re-sign him. So there's obviously it's a ridiculous comment by Warren Smith, because there must be something personal there, or something that Joey said to him one day, because this guy played in the grand final. He's been centre of the year. Yes, he does some stupid things, and he did a mighty stupid thing on Saturday. But to call him that, I just thought it was out of character for Warren Smith.
Yeah, I thought so too, because I think I'm a huge fan of Warren Smith. I think he's a fantastic commentator, and it's great that he's a Tigers fan, but I thought that was just a bit silly. Maybe it was a little bit of emotion talking at the time.
Yeah,
pretty quickly after the game too.
Maybe. But, yeah, I mean, Joey, look, the penalty was just as bad as the coat hanger for me, because that was at 12 all, and you can't get away with that, kicking the ball and play the ball, because even if you call knock on, Penrith are going to challenge it and it's going to be a penalty. So, like, look, your point about leadership might be a good one. If you had a Robbie Farah or someone could, an experienced guy who's played Origin could see him ticking over, maybe they could have got to him, but we've seen at his other clubs as well, they've probably had those sort of players, and he's got to cut that out of his game. Apparently he was pretty remorseful, which is good to hear, because it could be a turning point for him, because I like that sort of passion, not that stupid penalties.
Yeah.
But I like guys who, it reminded me a bit of that, dog in Tiger side, that 2000 sort of attitude where you had someone that was going to cause a few, opposition didn't want to run out or something. Yeah. So you got to get the balance right, don't you? Because he didn't, because he's missing 4 weeks. I thought 4 weeks was excessive.
Yeah.
I know it was a stupid thing. I thought it was worth two weeks, but because his name's Joey Leilua, he's probably going to get 4, isn't he?
I'm glad you said that about 2000, because I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is. It takes me back to that game at Campbelltown. I think it was a Friday night against the Dragons. Yeah. John Opolati got marched, and you just that's kind of is the Jekyll and Hyde of West Tigers. So I in a way, I kind of enjoyed it. Although we can't really afford to lose a player for 4 weeks, but at least hey, someone's showing some passion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's passion the wrong way, but I just think he's again. I'd someone say, "Oh, he was a horrible signing for the Tigers." I'm like, well, instead of whinging, come up with a solution. What was the solution? He's still, from mine, our best centre, and he was just starting to form that combination with Norfoluma. He's going to have to ride the pine, but I'm not giving up on Joey Leilua.
All right, here's me. What they say, like in the movies, lighting the pulling the pin on the hand grenade, throwing it in the door, and walking away. Ivan Cleary. He's well and truly off the Christmas card list for you now, isn't he?
Oh well, Joel. I mean, did it really surprise you? I mean, we've been so used to guys, especially him, a lack of class. So I mean, that at the end, look, I can understand fans are baiting him for 80 minutes. He would have expected that, but would a guy who won a premiership, like a premiership winning coach, do that? Like, for me, that just showed why he's not a premiership winning coach, is that he's reacting to a fan in a crowd of about 5,000, blowing kisses. I actually thought it was fairly embarrassing for him.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that you've summed it up correctly, Eddie. It was embarrassing for him. I think it just shows that he knows deep down inside that he screwed us over, that he did the wrong thing, and he's going to have to live with that forever. And I don't just mean... I'm not saying that as a West Tigers fan. I mean, he gave his name to somebody. He signed up. We gave him an opportunity when there was no opportunity for him. And the way that he did that, he's going to have to live with that. Now, whether or not that he lays there at night thinking about that, I don't know. But he's got to live with it one way or another. But I just think that just shows that there's emotion both ways there with him and the West Tigers. And there is the way that it ended. It was sort of sometimes with a relationship, even in an interpersonal relationship, every relationship with your employer is interpersonal relationships. There was no closure, It was a weird way that it came to an end. I think there's a little bit there. But you're right. It was completely unprofessional. If I was his boss at Penrith, I would have dragged him in first thing Monday morning and had a word about that, because that just painted the Panthers in such a terrible light.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem. I wouldn't have had a problem if it was one of the Penrith players doing that, because they were the guys, competing hard for 80 minutes, and they probably deserved their win in the end. And I think his son is a class player and a class act on and off the field, whereas, Ivan is not showing those traits. And look, I think in the end, things like that will come back to bite you, because there's going to be a time in the next few years when we beat Penrith, and there won't be one Tigers fan blowing kisses at him. There'll be 1,000 of them. So it only adds more scrutiny to him when we play them again, and we do play him again this year. So it is good theatre. It adds to the rivalry. But like I said, would you see a Michael Maguire or Wayne Bennett or Craig Bellamy they might point to the scoreboard, but would they be blowing kisses at supporters who on, like you said, this is a coach who walked out of the club and never really gave an explanation. So I just thought it was pretty embarrassing, and deep down, I think he would have been a little bit embarrassed. Maybe.
Yeah. I would be labelling it unprofessional if it was the West Tigers coach that was doing it. It's not a good look at all. And not a good look because you're supposed to be the leader of men, and that means you're supposed to set a pretty high standard of your professionalism and what you do as a leader. And that was not leadership at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if he wanted to rile up West Tigers fans, he's probably mission accomplished for him. But like I said, these things, as a head coach who's had 200 or 300 games, it's a bit beneath him doing sort of things like that. So it's just another little sucker punch for the Tigers fans. We're used to it, Joel, but one day the karma bus will turn the other way, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only thing is that you can often see with events that happen, you can see a leader, and I just think to myself, you got a lot of West Tigers fans upset, and it only takes one person to take it extra personally, and there might be some incident at some ground somewhere where there is a piece of glass between him and the crowd.
Oh, and that's a fair point, Joel. Like, would he have had the balls to do that at Leichhardt Oval in front of 18,000 people?
No.
Like, he looks all sort of, I'm sure the Tigers fan was giving him plenty. I think there was a quote in the paper saying he was swearing and blah, 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 but I think he was there with his kid or something. So it wasn't like he was a raving lunatic guy who was like banging on the glass or anything. But next time Ivan Cleary's coaching at Leichhardt or Campbelltown and has to walk down from the coach's box to the dressing room, there's going to be a few security guys around him, and that's probably his own fault. Yeah,
it's just throwing more fuel on the fire. Anyway, a little bit of recruitment news. There's not a whole lot going on. I don't know if you've caught up with the rumours via the Bulldogs forum. I don't know how tangible that is, but it seems like they gave it a little bit of momentum that Michael Chee Kam might be off to the Bulldogs either shortly or for the next couple of years. I think most West Tigers fans would wish Michael Chee Kam the best and say, all the best at the Bulldogs. Thanks for your contribution.
Is that a nice way of saying, Joel, that he could be released? Look, I read a comment maybe on the forum that said he's made a fair sort of highlight reel. If you looked at a YouTube highlight reel the last 2 years, you'd think, Michael Chee Kam, good signing for whoever he picks up, but 15 minutes on the weekend and that tackle miss, it's just, it can't happen in a game. It was out of context of the game, just a poor miss. And I don't know, he just seems to me, Joel, to be the sort of guy that after the game, he's always very cheery and happy and whatever. I just don't know if he's the Michael Maguire personality. I just don't know if he's got that fire and competitiveness to want to really win and take his game to the next level. I think I don't want to say he's just happy to be out there, but I've seen him a few times, just not like he doesn't care, but just pretty casual after the games and losses.
Yeah, well, my biggest complaint with him is he screws up the balance of our bench, because if you're going to have a utility player, if you're carrying him because he's got some utility value, i.e. you can play him in the centres or play him in the back row, there's plenty of guys that that have some impact off the bench that can play in the centres or play in the second row. And if you're going to have a utility player, then you want to have a Billy Walters or someone like that who can play multiple positions, play in the halves, play that hooker. And that's not Michael Chee Kam. You've got to have 3 impact forwards and a utility player. You can't have Michael Chee Kam, 2 impact players and a utility player. You know what I mean? I think that's my biggest complaint with him. And he's never been able to cement a spot in the starting team. I don't think under any coach we've had.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens this week, Joel, because he's named at centre. I'm a bit worried about that selection. I'm wondering if there's going to be a late change there with Tommy going to the centres and the young fella coming on the wing. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. That's very much the feeling I have. And I reckon Russell Parker will get a game this week as well. And maybe over Chris Lawrence.
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's hard for both of those guys. Haven't been playing footy. South's not as physical size they used to be, but still got some big bodies. So I think Russell Packer maybe with the last chance mission over Chris Lawrence for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think just back to the back line. I mean, Souths, as everybody has been saying quite rightly, their forwards haven't had the impact that they've had of recent years this year, but their backs are still quite potent. You don't want to be putting a guy that's making his debut, in naming him. All the spotlight would have been on Hoffman this week. It's better to name what we've got, keep South second guessing, and make the change an hour before the game.
I think that's good chance of happening. You look at that back line, Joel, of Souths, Latrell, Alex Johnson, James Roberts, Dane Gagai. So much pace there. Like it's a bit of a scary thought this week if they do sort of match us in the forwards. It's a mismatch in the outside backs pace wise, and then they got Damien Cook out of dummy half, but. You know, they're certainly not as resilient a side as Penrith this year. Souths are a bit flaky. So if this rain can sort of stick around for another couple of days and we can get a slippery sort of night game surface, and we put in that effort, then we can win the forward battle. But yeah, I wouldn't fancy our chances on a dry track against that back line.
Just before we go back to that South game, I'm remiss to not mention the other bit of potential signing news. Of course, we continue to be linked to Corey Harawira-Naera, but no word on when he'll be allowed to play again. But it seems I have a gut feeling we're sort of in the lead to snare him, which I think would be fantastic. But Adam Elliott, a bit of talk about Adam Elliott. Tigers potentially being in the frame to sign him. He's probably the sort of player, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Boyd Cordner sort of player. I think could be somebody that could make an addition. But, you know, if we sign a Corey Harawira-Naera, and we've got guys like Sean Bloor, I mean, we're overstacking in the back row.
Look, I think Adam Elliott's a really good player in an average team. I think he's the sort of player that bigger clubs, not bigger clubs, but teams higher up the ladder than us would be targeting. I'd be excited about a signing like that because I think he would relish the hard work of Michael Maguire. He looks like an old school footballer that I think he's been playing with a torn shoulder for a month or something. He finally gave in on the weekend. All reports out of Canterbury is that even though he's had a couple of silly things off the field, hasn't hurt anyone other than himself, but apparently he's a cracking bloke and a really, really tough, hard trainer. So I would say there would be room for a player of that ability in the back row for mine.
Okay, back to South's game. First time Adam Dewey's played against the Bunnies. He should be primed for a big game, I reckon.
For sure. He would have been a bit blindsided by that, what went on. Latrell and him being the odd man out. So, obviously, you come up against your old employee. You want to have a big game. I think he's been building towards that the last few weeks. I think he's been strong. I still think that him and Luke Brooks are not on the same page sometimes. Some of those backline movements haven't been crisp, even though we've been scoring some tries. It's sort of been off the back of sort of more quick direct play with Harry Grant, where I think our points have come from, and Alphaluma and stuff. But I'd like to see maybe Dewey and Brooks combine a bit more again. Joel, there was plenty of criticism for Luke Brooks on the Tigers forum. I know some people might think they might have it in for him a little bit, but they weren't too happy with his game on Saturday night. What did you think? I thought his defence was really good. It sort of goes unnoticed now because he used to miss a heap of tackles. It's improved out of sight, but there are moments where I think as a team we lack composure, and I think you have to blame the halfback sometimes for that.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before. I can't give you a definitive answer because Luke Brooks is technically not doing anything wrong. He's actually quite a good little player. He really is. But in those clutch moments, and there are times in games where he's not the right player. He doesn't have the skill set or the attitude perhaps to drive the result home. So he's almost like he's a 9 out of 10 halfback. He's not a 10 out of 10. He's not doing anything wrong, but he's not going to be an Alan Langer or an Andrew Johns that sort of stands up and makes sure you get the result. So that makes it a really difficult equation to make.
Yeah, I get what you're saying because it's sort of like, there's clearly no one better. I mean, for us at the moment, like there were calls a year or two to replace him with, Drinkwater, and then he came into the side, and you could tell he was levels below Brooks as an NRL player. But, yeah, like you said, there's just, Nathan Cleary sometimes doesn't dominate games, but he gets the big moments right. And I suppose that's why those guys are origin players. And Brooks is, I would say, above average NRL halfback, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, that's the best way you can summarise it, I think. He's consistent. Does, as I say, most things technically very well. He's just not quite that superstar halfback. On trees.
Yeah, I would love. I'm sure because Madge is driving everything really hard at this club, so I'm sure there's no one who's driving harder to make work than Luke Brooks. And if he can't, build a top 8 side around him, maybe not this year but next year, then that might come under a bit more scrutiny. But I think we've got more problems than Luke Brooks at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, to be fair, when he has had some speed around him, like Tedesco, then he has looked a more damaging player. No matter who your halfback is, if you've got no strike out wide, how good you look.
That's the thing. I mean, you put Tedesco in that side on Saturday night, as fine as Adam Dewey played, it means he makes that break, runs the distance, and they probably ice one or two of those plays where they make a break. Off the back of that, you win the game, and everyone's saying, well, Brooks was good. So it's sort of, it's putting the pieces around him. I think we're putting Harry Grant around him and a stronger forward pack's helping. So we don't want to hear sort of excuses for him, but just that little bit of speed would help ice some of those moves.
It's funny, I was just thinking about this afternoon. It may not carry any weight at all, but it's funny how the club didn't announce the re-signing of Paul Momirovski. I have a feeling that we might see Harry Grant in West Tigers colours in 2021. Just a feeling. And the other thing, you mentioned the West Tigers forum. Obviously, you go and check out the forum a couple of times every day, and I read a lot of comments, and we've been linked with Josh Addo-Carr, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of guys on the forum, guys and girls on the forum that are that enthusiastic. But I think he's exactly what we need. If we can get Josh Addo-Carr, we've got to go for it.
I wonder why that is. Whether that's his form's been a bit off this year. I haven't watched Melbourne closely, but he hasn't certainly been playing at the level he was probably the past 3 or 4 years. He's been exceptional for Melbourne. But I think he's only 24 or 25, Joel.
Yes.
Is that right? He's not like he's 30, and he's going to slow down in the next year or two. So as long as you do the off-field checks and he's sort of, there was that incident with Latrell and stuff, that would probably be more the check for me, just that everything's in place off the field and he's happy, because we do really, really need some speed. And, it's not like he's just a speedster. He's really improved his game defensively. He runs the ball hard in his back end. So, and he's got the Tigers, he's still got that Tiger heart, I'm sure, having grown up and debuted for the club. So, I'd be for it.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, it's all a money thing, I suppose. You'd probably be worried about spending $800,000 on a winger. You probably wouldn't want to do that. But boy, we do need to address that next speed, isn't it? I think we've injected some options, some variety in the team, and a bit of class, a bit of our attack's been okay this year, and we got the coach, but just lacking a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, you mentioned Josh Addo-Carr off the field. I think that the problem has been, his partner and family and young daughter's been in Sydney, and, that could be an issue. So coming back to Sydney, coming back to a club that he knows and a club that's, potentially on the rise, I think we offer a lot. I think it'd be a nice addition if we could make it happen. And if you look at the West Tigers contracts, the situation, we should have a whole lot of money freed up in 2021. So I'm expecting a couple of signings.
Well, it's exciting. I think the money's been well spent this year. For we didn't have that much wiggle room, and we've added what looks like a fullback, a centre, an outstanding hooker, hopefully for more than this year, and a young good back rower in Lucci. So no reason not to have confidence in Madge and Adam Hartigan if they have money to spend. Good money.
Exactly. All righty. Shall we leave it there, Eddie?
Do you want to give? I've got the games in front of you. Do you want me to give quick? Do you want to give a quick tip for each game?
I haven't put my tips in yet, so I'm not sure who's playing. So go for it, Eddie.
I'll tell you now who's playing. Tomorrow night in North Queensland, Cowboys play the Roosters.
Yeah. Okay. So Roosters should win that one.
Yeah, I'd say so. Blockbuster on Friday night, Joel, at 6 o'clock. It's the Titans and the Warriors.
Well, the Warriors had their win last week. I reckon the Titans.
You got to give a rap, Joel, to old Tiger, Toddy Payton. I thought he did well to get that team up for a win, his first win. So I don't think they'll go back to back. Though I'll go Titans.
Yep.
We'll save our game for the end. We haven't given a tip for that yet. Sharks at home to Penrith. I think Sharks might spring an upset here. I think they're starting to play some good football. I think they're back at Shark Park this week. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, that's and it could be the same issue for us. How much did that very physical game out of the tank? Should bring them back to the field a bit, but I still think Penrith.
Okay. Broncos against Canterbury. How do you tip that game?
Well, if you look at the two lineups, you'd probably say Brisbane has a bit more class, maybe, but go Canterbury.
Yeah, I think if they lose this game, Joel, they probably have to sack him because that would mean, Titans, Warriors, Bulldogs. That's the heard someone on the back page say last night. That's the trilogy of bad teams, and if you lose them 3 weeks in a row, they've got us on the back of that at Leichhardt. So I don't know. It just doesn't look like they're playing for Anthony Seibold to me. It looks like a mess there. I think Canterbury might win.
There has to be some turmoil going on behind the scenes. There has to be. And if it doesn't improve, if the Broncos finish in the bottom three, can you finish in the bottom three of the Broncos and keep your job, regardless of the length of the contract you've got?
No way. I think he's very close, if not having already lost that sort of playing group. Some strange roster decisions as well. Raiders Storm in Canberra. That'd be a good game.
Yeah. Well, you've got to go Melbourne Raiders. We want Melbourne to win.
Yeah, I think back in Canberra Raiders with no Munster for the Storm. Knights and the Eels, both teams going pretty well in Newcastle. Yeah,
but Eels could be due for a loss. No, they lost a couple of weeks ago to the Roosters, but you got to go Eels, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll go Parramatta, but I think they're playing really well. But I think big advantage for them during this COVID the last 6 weeks, Joel, sort of playing every game at Bank West, even though there's no crowd. They just play so well there. So game away with some fans in the stands at Newcastle might be tougher for them. Yep. Dragons at home to Manly. Manly need a win. Hopefully they won't, but
they weren't too bad last week. They're obviously missing Trebojevic makes a huge difference to them. You can't tick the Dragons, can you? Sure, Manly.
No. I think Manly have been on the end of a couple of unlucky endings this year. I think they'll beat St George. And Friday night, 8 o'clock, Tigers Rabbitohs. I think we're at Bank West again. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
I think it is because I know I got excited the other week though when they released the draw where we're back at Leichhardt and Campbelltown with crowds. I'm hoping to go to that Leichhardt game, which is the week after this week, but pretty sure it's a Rabbits game at Bank West this Friday night.
Right. I'm tipping the Tigers, but not with a huge amount of confidence. And I don't mean to say that I don't believe we can't win. I just get the feeling that South will be up for this one.
Yeah, I worry about the 6-day turnaround, a couple more injuries, and that South back line. So if it's raining and slippery, I think we can win. If it's dry, I think South probably get us.
All right. Well, we'll come back next week and talk about it one way or another. Have a great weekend, Eddie.
Sounds good. See you, John.